Hello there, welcome to the Obithroian Alliance. I'm Jacob, this is Luke, and in today's video we're discussing our thoughts about the Olympics Games in Tokyo 2020, even though it's 2021. If you can, like and subscribe, leave a comment down about your thoughts about the Olympics as well. So I guess we will start with our favourite sports and...
Yeah, we'll just chat about a few things. It's an interesting Olympic Games. It went on during a pandemic and they had no crowds and athletes were wearing masks and sometimes they weren't wearing masks and there's so many rules, so it was interesting to watch. My favourite sport. I really got into watching the I'll call it rock climbing, but I think they called it something else. But it was rock climbing. And it's new to this Olympics this year. It's a very popular sport in Japan. The men and women did quite well. They didn't get golds, but they were in the medal tally for both of them. And it was just a different event. Like, I found myself getting hooked watching it. Did you get to see any of it?
The rock climbing?
Yeah.
Just the highlights?
Yeah, so it was a cool idea. The event was broken into 3 categories. They had to do a speed where they raced people up the wall and they'd get up the wall in like 5 or 6 seconds. And then through that, you'd get a ranking of where you finished. And if you finished first, you got 1 point. And if you finished last, and let's say there's 20 people, you got 20 points. So at the end, you want the least amount of points. Then they did this event called bouldering where there was a series of challenges. Like, they only had to get 5 meters off the ground, but you had to problem solve and work out how to climb and get to the points. And then whoever completed the most puzzles basically got points, and then they got a ranking again. And then the last 8 people then got to compete where they had to do this challenge called lead, where they had to a 15-meter wall to see who could get the highest up the wall. So no one completed it from the females, but in the males, the guy that completed it won gold because it was like if you completed this, you were a very good chance of getting gold medal.
Which country was he from?
He was from Spain. So he won the speed event. He did average at the bouldering event, but then he completed the lead event. He got all the way to the top of the wall. And it was pretty cool to watch. And the female, she was from Slovenia, and she won all 3 events, I'm pretty sure. She was just the best in the world, and they said they reckon she's the greatest of all time at rock climbing.
Oh, okay.
So it was cool to watch. It was a different sport. What about you? What was your favourite sport to watch throughout the Olympics?
Probably basketball and seeing the Boomers get their first ever medal in Olympics.
Yeah. I had a feeling they were going to go on and win gold, to be honest, because they beat the Americans in the warm-up.
Pre-game.
I reckon if they didn't have to play the Americans in the semis, they would have... I still think they would have played them in the finals, but I reckon they would have won that, or got silver at worst.
Yeah. It's a shame that their only loss during the tournament was in the semis to get into the gold match. Like, they only lost once.
Yeah. And then they played really well in their bronze medal match and won that.
Against Luka Doncic.
Yeah, so yeah, it was cool. They played really well.
Yeah, and I think it would have been pretty amazing to get gold, but for our first medal, take the bronze anytime.
Well, Australia's getting better and better at basketball. I think now NBL will get more popular because of it. I think we've got more and more superstars going over and doing well in America. People like Patty Mills, who's been over there for 10 plus years doing well.
Ingles.
Yeah, I think basketball is slowly becoming a very, very popular sport in Australia. And pretty much anything we set our mind to, we seem to get good at. It just takes a bit of time. So I can't see why we couldn't be the second best country in the world at basketball in the next 10 years behind America.
Yeah.
Like, we're already close to it now.
Yeah, and I guess we did well in swimming, I believe. Got a couple of medals.
Yeah, we had a record in the pool, winning the most golds, or equaling, I think, the most golds we've ever had. And swimming's a sport that Australia dominate at.
Yeah.
So we did quite well. Overall, we finished 6th on the medal tally and equaled our best ever, like most medals we'd ever got in Olympics, equal to what we did in Athens. So we're... it's on and up, and we're getting better at sports we weren't good at. So track and field, Australia we wouldn't make the finals of any of the events. We wouldn't even have someone qualified to enter the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics. But we nearly had someone in the finals or the semi-finals in every event. And then we also got some medals in like high jump and pole vaulting and javelin and things that we've never been good at. So we're getting better. Who do you reckon? Well, I'd probably know a tough question, but which country you reckon's had the most gold medals out of any country throughout Olympic history?
Who came first?
Well, just it's the same answer for both questions. But who do you reckon's won the most medals ever, like out of all the Olympics combined?
I would assume America.
Yeah. And so I was watching a video the other day of showing it. So America had won, I think it was like 4 times more gold medals than the country in second place, which I think was Russia. So they dominate, and I don't know why. I guess maybe they just invest more time in their sports, or it's just their cocky attitude. I don't know, but we're getting closer to America, and our population is nothing compared to theirs. So we do pretty good.
Is there any other sports that you thought did amazing? Like I believe we won gold in the BMX, like the skateboard.
We won gold in the men's BMX, and we won gold in the men's skateboarding. So they did 2 types of BMX. There's been the BMX racing, which has been in the Olympics before, and Australia do pretty well at that. But they added like freestyle BMX that was based on tricks. And we won gold in that. And then they added skateboarding, and we won gold in that, which was a young, like 18-year-old boy actually that won that. And which was pretty massive for Australia to be good at those sports. And yeah, it's an interesting one about sports being added. I think there's some silly sports in there, and then there's some good sports that miss out. But it's a hard one to determine what should and shouldn't be in the Olympics, and where do we stop, and what happens if we add too many events and the Olympics goes for a year just to try and fit them all in. Like, it becomes tricky. What are your thoughts? Do you reckon there's any sports in there that are a bit silly that you don't think shouldn't be in the Olympics?
It's hard for me to say because, we all like different sort of sports. So I don't know, it's hard question to answer.
Well, one that stood out for me was the 3v3 basketball. Like there's already basketball, but then they added 3v3 basketball.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's weird. Why have 2 variations of basketball?
Yeah.
I don't know who won and who was playing. I just had no interest in watching it. But to add basketball and 3v3 basketball was really odd. Like that to me isn't a televised sport. It's not something people strive to play. I know some people say, well, you've got cricket and you've got 2020 cricket. Well, that's still a full-size amount of players on the field in cricket. It's just a shortened version of the game. It's not the same. I always question why rugby sevens is in there. I don't really like rugby sevens as a sport. I love rugby union, but I think rugby sevens is silly.
I think people prefer it because it's a quicker game.
Yeah, I think it's just weird that deserves to be in the Olympics, but then... Well, I suppose normal rugby has a World Cup, which is more important.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it's a weird thing to add to Olympics because it's kind of like a carnival sport. It's not a real sport. It's like people go there just to like drink and watch it. Like it's not... Like the players aren't the best players in the world often, and it's an interesting one. What other sports I thought were a bit dumb that was in there? Rock climbing was one at the beginning I thought was stupid, but then it slowly became my favourite sport to watch. But 3v3 basketball stood out to me. That was silly. Considering netball can't get into the Olympics, why 3v3 basketball gets a go? And like, who do you pick in your team? Do you pick does Australia decide to enter Paddy Mills and Joe Ingles and someone else from their boomers, or do they go, no, we want you to play 5-on-5? Like, which is more important? Like, it's an odd one to split up.
Do you know how we went in the water?
So you are seeing how we went in the water polo.
Didn't see any water polo on TV.
So I watched a few games, and Australia were doing well in both the men's and the women's, but by looking at the results, we didn't finish very high. We didn't make it into the medals, which I always thought Australia was good at water polo. But yeah, like... Out of the things you watched, what was your highlight for the tournament?
Probably seeing Australia getting the bronze, and probably seeing all well competitive games, and probably seeing everyone just achieving their best, I guess.
Yeah, I reckon my favourite moment for the Olympics, I enjoyed watching the high jump. Like I enjoyed seeing, I think his name was Brandon Stark, his brother's Mitchell Stark, the Australian cricketer. So watching him compete in the high jump, because he's like doing really well in that sport. He's one of the best in the world, and he managed to get a medal. And he won gold at the Commonwealth Games when they're here on the Gold Coast too. So, like, seeing an Australian be one of the best in the world at an event that we're not usually good at, that was a highlight. And I reckon watching the Australian 100-metre sprinter, so he won his heat and got to the second round, and then he just missed out in the semi-finals to get into the final. But to see him win a heat and beat Johan Blake in a race, who's the third fastest sprinter of all time, was pretty cool. Even though he didn't go on to even make it into the finals, I think for a young, I think he was like 21, it was pretty cool to see. So, yeah, really looked forward. That was one of my highlights for me.
And I guess we got the Olympics to look forward to in Australia, Brisbane in 2032.
Yep, so we've got a little while for that, and then we've got Paris in the next 3 years. Whether that will go on and what they'll look like will be interesting to see, and we'll have a few new weird sports being added, like I believe breakdancing is being added. That's one of the things. Oh, another cool thing they added for the Olympics this year was the surfing. I thought surfing was a cool touch to add. I think that's a fair enough Olympic sport. I'm always questionable about sports that get added that the Olympics isn't the pinnacle. Like, I'm a massive golfer and big fan of golf, play golf, but I don't think it should be in the Olympics because the best players don't go over there to play. They don't really care. They'd rather play in the US and make millions of dollars. So it's like a wasted sport. And basketball's probably the same. Like, the US won, but they didn't send their best players. Like,
Kevin Durant was their best player, and others were.
Yeah, there's like definitely players that they would have chose not to go there because they didn't want to risk injury, because they don't want to mess up their millions-dollar contracts they have in the NBA. So it kind of like, well, what's the point? Like, if that's not the pinnacle, if you don't grow up going, I want to win a gold medal in my sport, then why should it be in there? Where like runners and swimmers, that's it for them. That's the pinnacle of their sport. Like the fact that they kind of make a mockery of it when they invite like basketballers over there that are paid billions of dollars a year to play basketball, and they're competing against athletes that they're almost amateurs, like they don't even get paid to play their sport. Like they do it just because the prize is winning a gold medal. That takes away from the special. That's not special anymore.
Yeah. Were you disappointed to seeing that America got the gold, because they actually played really bad in the the Vegas pre-game show, and then they lost to France in round one? It's like their cockiness got the better of them, and then it's like, because I watched their game against Australia, I told you they actually came back from a 15-point deficit. It's like the attitude was like, oh yeah, we know we're going to win this.
I think they probably took it lightly because they knew overall they'd win. They're the best team.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if whether they got cocky or whether they just, like the first round, they were just like, oh, we don't want to risk injury. We'll just go easy on this.
Yeah.
Which is cockiness in itself. So I ideally would like to see the Americans win less medals. I think some of those American athletes were just real cocky, like the way they would carry on and when they'd win their medals, and I don't know, it's just an arrogance of that society. Yeah, but looking forward to the next Olympics, so it was quite enjoyable to watch.
So it's going to be in Paris, and then that's 2024, and then in 2028.
There's another one, I'm not sure where that is actually. It's obviously been announced, but I have no idea where it is.
And then the one in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So plenty of Olympics to look forward to. Thank you for helping, Luke. If you enjoyed the discussion, like and subscribe, comment down about your thoughts about the Commonwealth Games. See you in the next video. Let the force be with you. Bye bye.